So, anyway, talking about a size up. Whenever you're looking at hazardous materials, you're gonna see it. It's a stop point. You start seeing placards and numbers and little colors and a little flame symbol, stuff like that.
Bye-bye.
Game over.
Yeah.
So, and then extinguishing small fires with fire extinguisher. I'm gonna talk a little bit about fire chemistry. Some of the stuff for Serena is gonna be just kind of really mundane. She's already had a lot of this. But it's good information to have. It may mean that the simplest thing about putting out a fire is taking out one of the three components, and then you've solved your problem. Let's see, fire size up considerations, firefighting resources, got all that. So, your role in this, extinguishing small fires, and whenever I say small fires, I don't mean, I'm talking about stuff the size of a small barrel or a garbage can kind of stuff. We're not talking about trying to attack a house. Not even a car fire. We're not even going to undertake something like that. But a very small fire. Something that, as a general rule, yes, the fire department would maybe respond, but given the fact that you're working in a disaster environment, that resource may not be immediately available. And if you can get it out and prevent that fire engine from having to respond and allow that engine to go somewhere else where it can be of more use and more help, then that's what we're there for. Preventing additional fires by removing fuel sources, shutting off utilities. Again, on this campus, if there's a fire breaks out, physical plant's going to be here to shut the gas down, shut the electricity down. But if you're working out of your neighborhood or your home, that's one of those things that's a real good thing to know. Where is my electric disconnect? Where is my gas shut off? Working at the Capitol, the first thing they showed me was how to do those things inside that building should an emergency happen. So that's good information to have. And assisting when evacuations is necessary. Now you guys are going to take a serious role in that should we have to evacuate a building. I mean, you guys are going to be the ones that are standing at the doors guiding folks, letting them know, go this way. Again, your primary job is to help until professional responders arrive. The other one, guys, your safety is the most important factor in dealing with all of this. Always work as a team. Never try to do something by yourself. Always try to use the buddy system. Always. And always wear your equipment. Always wear your gear. And we're going to issue that to you. So the fire triangle. 3 things. Fuel, oxygen, and heat. That's all it takes. If you remove one of those, fire can't burn. You can't destroy anything. There's 5 classes. And whenever we get into reading fire extinguishers and knowing what kind of fire extinguisher is what, it's going to have those classes on it. This is what it's talking about. A Class A ordinary combustible. What would be an ordinary combustible? Paper. Wood. Just your kind of everyday stuff that'll burn. Class B, flammable and combustible liquids. Gasoline.
Charcoal liquid.
Yeah. Kerosene. Things like that. Hairspray under certain conditions. Energized electrical equipment. High tension power lines. How many of you have ever seen a tree fall against an electrical line and it start a fire? And then combustible metals. What's an example? Any chemistry folks in here? What's an example of a combustible metal? Magnesium. And then cooking oils. So, reducing electrical hazards, avoid the electrical octopus. Some of you guys may have seen this in somebody's office around here. They'll have a 2-outlet plug, and then they'll plug in one of those 3 outlets in both of them and turn it into a 6-outlet plug, and then run an extension cord with a power strip off of one. And
You're going to have to rearrange your cords and
That means my whole lab setup has to change.
So that's where you're asking for problems when that happens. Don't run a cord under carpet. I don't know, sometimes whenever an extension cord gets overstressed, it'll get warm, everybody felt one, it gets too hot. Well, if you've got it laying under a rug carpet and it gets hot enough, you've got heat, you've got everything you need in that fire triangle for it to start. So, look for broken cords and then maintain appliances. No, and like again, we're going to talk about this from your neighborhood, your home standpoint.
You said not to put it on the carpet, but what about those strip things that they make for you to take the cords and put
I know which ones you're talking about. I can't guide you one way or another. I just got to go by what they say you shouldn't do. I mean, we all do it. Those plastic strips, I've generally seen those used in an office environment where you have very low pile carpet like this, or you've got like a 12 by 12 vinyl tile kind of set up. It's not the plush carpeting, residential style carpet stuff, or a big rug over it. As far as utility controls, and you're shutting off your appliances, circuit breakers, things like that. Again, most of the time, if something like that happens here, physical plant will be on scene to handle it. But at home, you may not have that ability to have somebody who would know how to shut down the gas. So familiarize yourself with it. And we'll talk about the different types of circuit breakers, fuse boxes, because there's different kinds depending on what you're looking at. Who remembers the old school fuses that you used to screw into the deal? Yeah, okay.
And you stick a penny in behind it so it
There you
comes
go.
out.
You know, you don't see that much anymore, right? I mean, when you see that, it's generally on an older house. And most people today would look at that and go, I don't know what this is. Versus now, the new stuff, you start flipping switches. So, post shut-off directions next to the utilities. It may not be you. You may know how to do it, but somebody else may not. If you know how to do it, put the instructions up there. That's why you see a lot of people that put that little sticky arrow next, or they'll color it with a magic marker next to the breaker box, or on the breaker saying, this is the hot water, or this is the oven. Let people know that's what that's for. And then if you know how to turn it off, know how to turn it back on. A lot of commercial structures, there may be a separate process that you have to turn it on in certain sections. Now, we talked about it. That's the old school way in most of your older houses with the little fuses, looks like the end of a light bulb with a little glass piece on the end of it. And when you open up this box, you're going to see these things in there. And generally what happens if a fuse blew, you just unscrewed it, put a fresh one in, went on about your way. But again, very old school box. You don't see them used anymore. And next to it, you have a big square thing. You could pull out, instead of pulling out each of them individually, just pull that and it would disconnect the circuit. Most of the time now is the new stuff, like you see here. And it'll have one section up at the top of the box where that's the main disconnect, where you can turn stuff off individually on the sides, but there's going to be a set, maybe generally about 4 of them, depending on the size of your house, that are all kind of grouped together, where you can push them all up and all down at the same time, and that'll shut the power off to the entire structure. Now, whenever you go outside, depending on how you're set up, people in the country, their stuff may be mounted on the end of their house. Some people's it's mounted on the pole and it's run underground to their house. The outside disconnect generally has a handle. It'll have a little door. You open it up and there'll be a little handle in there. You just pull it down. Something to that effect. That's a pretty self-explanatory thing. Natural gas hazards. Asphyxiant. This is one of those concerns you run into whenever you are going to talk about suppressing a fire. Okay, you don't have an SCBA or a self-contained breathing apparatus like the fire department does to walk into a room full of smoke and be able to sustain. Well, what happens is the longer you stay in that environment, you become asphyxiated. because you start losing oxygen and replace it with smoke. So something to think about. And depending on what kind of environment you're in, if there's anything in there, those poison gases, if they get hot enough, they'll ignite. Now, you've been in long enough now, you know what a flashover is, you know what a backdraft is. These are things, and essentially that's gases building up and getting hot enough to ignite. And so you want to be, if you were even remotely concerned that the atmosphere and where you're working to try to suppress a fire is too toxic in nature, walk away from it. Don't try to suppress something whenever you can't breathe. Natural gas awareness, something you may want to do as far as some community outreach stuff when that time comes. Talking about natural gas detectors, showing people how to install one. Most of the time, they're real simple. You can plug them into the wall. Show them how they work. Install carbon monoxide detectors in a home. Generally, if it's an all-electric home, they don't need it. But if it's a home that out in the country, you got a lot of people that use propane to heat and cool with or cook with, they may need a carbon monoxide detector in their home, or if they have natural gas, definitely they need one. Test the batteries every 6 months. Change the batteries every 6 months, or check it every month, change them every 6 months. Locate and label the gas shutoffs, and have a proper tool that won't spark. Now, some of the CERT bags that you can buy have a multi-tool in it. The ones that I think we got didn't come with one. You can pick them up, they're real cheap, but they're non-spark. And what that means is it's metal, but when you could bang it against that other metal and it's not going to create a spark, which would obviously be a bad problem. So, shutting the gas off. Locate and label it. In some instances, commercial structures will have an automatic shut-off. I think the South Campus just recently installed one. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we've had a couple of gas leaks at the South Campus that have caused an evacuation and had to close the campus due to the gas leak. And it originated, the second one that was severe enough to have to actually shut down the campus was caused by one of the natural gas stoves in the cafe. The pilot light blew out and the gas was on and it just built up.
That could have been so.
And it could have been a very bad deal. But it did not have an automatic disconnect on it at the time. I believe it does now. And what that will allow it to do is simply, whenever that occurs, it automatically knows to shut it all down. I know that the culinary building definitely has security measures in place, because even if the fire alarm gets tripped for any reason, it automatically shuts the gas down to that building. And they scream when it happens because it takes them hours to get all that gas. They got to bleed the lines and do all this kind of stuff, and it's a nightmare for them. But those safety and security measures are in place to make sure you don't walk into a bomb like we almost did that morning over at South. Because when we walked into that building, you could smell the gas very heavy in the main concourse.
Yeah.
But when you opened up the cafe, you needed an air pack to be able to breathe. It would take your breath away. And it had been that way all weekend. Now, that was one pilot light that was out. How many pilot lights are in that kitchen? More than one. And so all it needed was to build up a little bit more, because it had all the components there, just not enough. So, a little acronym whenever you're talking about chemicals. LIES stands for limit the amount that you keep on hand, isolate them, eliminate stuff that you don't need, and then separate. I think everybody in this room knows that there's certain things just don't mix when it comes to cleaning products, especially bleach. There you go. So, little acronym for that. A lot of people, they like to, they get pretty OCD about it. They'll have it all in different places, have it up high in a lock cabinet, things like that, especially if they got little kids. So let's talk about size up. Every emergency responder that goes to any type of emergency call continuously does this, all the way from the time they get the call until the time they are driving away. They're constantly looking at what's at hand and reviewing and taking it all in. That way they can effectively do their job. So the first thing you want to do is you want to gather the facts. When they call you and tell you this is what's going on, you need to know what's really going on. If they say, well, we've got a fire alarm, okay, and then you get down there and the whole building is just fully involved, well, they weren't very factual with you. So get the facts of what's really going on. If you're dealing with a disaster that has just occurred, damage. Just kind of take that step back for a second and look at the overall picture of what you see. We may get tunnel vision. Emergency responders get really tuned in, or they'll show up and they'll see one thing that's very traumatic or very bad, and they hone in on it. And it's dangerous because you don't see what else is around you. You pull up to a car accident, you're looking at the damage and all the mangled, twisted up metal, and you're seeing the people that are hurt and all this, and you zone in on that, but you forget that there's a high tension power line down over the car, and you don't even totally see it. So, assess the damage. Like when you're talking about light search and rescue, constantly keep assessing that building for structural damage. Because there's going to come a point, as you continue assessing, you may see something that is completely unsafe and you've got to get out of there. From the outside looking in, it may look stable until you get 3 rooms in, and then all of a sudden you see a major load-bearing wall that's completely crumbled and the whole thing's fixed to pile down on top of it. So constantly assess the damage. Consider the probabilities of things. If you arrive on a scene and based on the damage that you have assessed and the facts you have on hand, you may deem that the probability of saving somebody that's in that building is very, very unlikely. And so you make that decision not to go in. Or you have to wait until professional responders, trench rescue, whatever, get there. So you always want to consider the probabilities of your effectiveness. How effective are we going to be if we undertake this task? From there, you have to assess your situation. Can we sustain this? Can we pull this off? Can we do this? Everything may be good, but you may not have the tools on hand to get the job done. So assess your situation. If there's a lot of dust, smoke, things like that, and you have asthma, your situation may be that you can't go in, you've got to wait for somebody else to go in. From there, establish your priorities. What is the number one priority at hand? Is it to save a person inside, or is it to suppress a small fire so that you can get in and get more people out? So take a look, again, based on the facts you have at hand. Establish your priorities. What is the first most important thing we need to accomplish on this scene? From there, what's the second? And then the third. And work from there. From there, somebody's got to make a decision, folks. You've done all of this, you've sized all this up, you've got your game plan, you know what your priorities are. Somebody's got to say, all right, we're doing this. And in a CERT environment, you generally have a team leader. But it may be very well that you and your buddy make that team effort decision together and say, okay, we're going. Develop a plan of action. Okay, we're going in this building. We know the layout of this building. We go in. We're both going left. We're both going right. If you see something, I see something, we're going to say something. Vocalize this. Talk to your partner. Talk to your buddy. That plan of action may be us walking up somewhere and saying, okay, you're going to go this way, I'm going to go this way, we're going to meet here. If you see something that's scary, yell this word and we'll retreat back to here and go. Make that plan. You take the action and then evaluate the progress. You do something, is it working? Is what we're doing helping or hindering what's going on? So, CERT fire size up helps responders decide whether to attempt to suppress the fire. Again, a plan of action. We're going to sit up here and say, okay, we can put this out. But how are we going to do it? Wind's blowing this way. We don't want to approach it from this side. We want to approach it from this side. Have that plan of action. Does your buddy and you, again, have the right equipment? Now, whenever you get later on into talking about different types of extinguishers, things like that, when you grab a fire extinguisher off the wall, you need to know that that extinguisher is going to put out that fire. Because if you're dealing with a fire down here in the bistro, you don't want a water extinguisher in there. Chances are, you start blowing a water extinguisher around there, you're going to make a small fire really big. So know that you have the right equipment to do the job. Are there any other hazards? Again, you may see the fire, but you may not see something else that's very dangerous that would completely call the game off as far as CERT goes. There may be a big old tub of chemicals sitting right over here next to it, that if it went up, the whole building would go up. Is the building structurally damaged? If the building's crumbling, it's probably going to be a loss anyway. There's no sense in trying to suppress the fire and trying to make entry on a building that's structurally unsound and putting yourself in so much danger that, again, you're hurting yourself more than helping yourself at that point. Can me and my buddy escape? Again, when you're making that plan of action, you want to make sure that you have that escape route. And part of that continuously assessing is maintaining that escape route. Depending on where you're going and what you're doing, having that avenue, again, to protect yourself first and get out. Firefighters have it easy because when they're laying inside of a building, they can follow the hose back to the truck. They can literally feel, they know which way the male and female screw in on a hose, and they can identify in the blind, and they know that that hose is connected to a fire truck out in the world. You may not have that luxury. So you have to continuously make sure that you've got that avenue of escape. And can you fight it safely? Again, if you walk in and you shoot off one of these big ABC fire extinguishers and it blows that white powder smoke stuff everywhere, and you're in a small confined area and all you've got's a dust mask on, is that safe? I mean, are we looking at possibly having an inhalation hazard there? All of a sudden now you can't breathe. The fire's out, but now you can't breathe. So think about that. Make sure you can fight the fire safely. So, portable fire extinguishers, wet standpipes, creative resources and confinement, different types of ways you can suppress fire. Types of fire extinguishers: a water, a dry chemical, carbon dioxide, and then specialized fire extinguisher. when you talk about a specialized fire extinguisher, I don't know, did they go over halon systems with you?
Briefly, just for this, not this one. I brought it up.
Okay. I'll give you an example of a specialized fire extinguisher. People that have worked around areas with like a lot of electronics, a lot of computer equipment, back in the olden days, they had halon systems, and they would have something of great value that didn't need to get wet or ruined in this particular room. And it had a system where when the doors closed and that halon system was activated, the halon sucked the oxygen out of the room. And again, part of that fire triangle, in order for fire to burn, it's got to have oxygen. Well, whenever you take that oxygen away, the fire doesn't burn, but anything in there with it isn't going to stay alive either. So when you talk about specialized fire extinguishers, that's what they're talking about. Wet standpipes, you've got them here. Most of the time, the fire department is going to use it to connect their hoses they bring with them. But you've seen a standpipe in some of the older buildings, you know, the little window that has the fire hoses in it with the little hose and the little, you open the door, turn the little valve, and you pull the hose out and it charges. That's what a standpipe is. And if you find yourself trying to fight a fire with a standpipe, that's when you really need to be, the mind needs to be going, the wheels need to be spinning, because you need to be constantly assessing what's going on. Because if that fire is big enough that you can't suppress it with a fire extinguisher and you went to a standpipe, you may need to ask yourself, are we going to win this fight? Or do we need to wait for the fire department to get here? But it may be that standpipe is what saves your life, because that fire's got your avenue of escape blocked, and you need to use it to suppress the fire to get out. But just to know what a standpipe is, I'll show you a picture of it here in a minute. Ratings and labelings on extinguishers, and we didn't get to bring any in today, but trust me, you're going to get plenty of use out of one before it's all said and done. A Class A fire rating, 1A to 40A, Class B fire ratings, 1B to 640B. The higher the number on that label on that fire extinguisher means the greater amount of extinguishing agent that they put in the extinguisher. And you'll see on the right in there. Everybody from your disaster prepare or your emergency preparedness course and stuff knows what the PASS acronym is. You know, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. That's a standpipe. That's a newer, modern version of a standpipe. You'll see them around the mechanical rooms. Sometimes you see the fancy chrome ones mounted on the outside of a building where it says fire department connection. Well, that's where that is. When that fire truck pulls up and they plug that fire truck into the building, it charges the standpipes. And that's what they can actually, instead of having to bring a whole bunch of hose in or drag it from off the fire truck and hook up to the fire truck and through doors and upstairs and all that, whenever they just bring 2 sections of hose, hook up to the standpipe, and they can fight fire all the way down the hall. But again, a lot of your older buildings, a lot of your older structures, and I think a lot of it has depended on code, how big a building is, how tall it is, things like that, different factors. You'll see the ones where they've got the hose connected to it in the nice little pretty box with the nozzle on it. You keep seeing this over and over and over again throughout this whole thing. Your safety is the most number one important factor in this thing. And if you get up there and you just say, hey, I can't do this. This ain't my bag. There's nothing wrong with saying that and walking away from it if that makes you feel safe, because that's the most important thing. Because there's probably going to be 3 more of you standing there, and out of that, 2 of them say, I think I can do this, and the others will say, so can I. And they can attempt it. And then you guys can stand back as safety officers and watch what's going on and continuously assess what they're doing. Don't get too close to it. Everybody at one point in their life has gotten too close to fire or something hot, and what happened? Don't fight it alone. Especially if nobody knows where you're at and what you're doing. Don't try to suppress large fires. And when I say large fires, I mean something the size of that podium right there. You might try to take that down. Anything other than that, don't do it. Don't do it. And then don't enter a smoke-filled area. Remember we talked about asphyxiation earlier? If it's got smoke billowing out of it, chances are you're not putting that fire out anyway. Hazardous materials. We stay away from them. They corrode other materials, explode, or they're easily ignited. Some of them react very strongly with water, are unstable when exposed to heat or shock, are otherwise toxic to humans, animals, or the environment through absorption, inhalation, injection, or ingestion. You may swallow it, you may breathe it in, it may get splashed on you. There's a lot of icky stuff out there. And especially whenever something gets on you, you don't know what it is. Everybody's got that natural get it off. There's some things that you just can't wipe off. And it takes a truck and men in all kinds of suits and tents and washdowns, and it's a nightmare. And there's some of that stuff on these campuses.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're here. There's some things on these campuses that with the right combination is very, very dangerous. It's very hazardous. Everybody's probably seen one of these at one time or another, but just kind of really don't have an idea of what they are. The NFPA, National Fire Prevention Administration 704 diamond. The W with the slash to it shows this thing may react unusual to water. So when you see something, you see that diamond, and you see that little symbol on there, chances are you don't want to just start blowing water all over it. Because it may be something that it's gonna do some funky stuff. I'll give you cyanide crystals. You put water on it, it reacts by creating cyanide gas. And so that's one of the things that you want to be, if you see that diamond and it's got that W with that little line through it, don't put water on it. The OX, it possesses oxidizing properties. It's going to oxidize stuff corroded up. Now, you see more of these in common than you had, before. Different colors mean different things. Most of the time, you see that one right there or that one right there. You'll see that on just about every propane hauling truck, gas truck around. You'll also see them in a more advanced hazmat class. You'll see one of these diamonds with a number on it, like 1903, 1903, propane. You'll see 1993, gasoline. I can't remember aviation fuel. But there's a book, and there's an app for that. The North American Emergency Response Guidebook. You can download that app, you can get the book. It's a fun little game on road trips. The North American Emergency Response Guidebook. See, Serena's on top of it. She's got it.
North American,
It looks like.
Emergency Response Guidebook.
Hey,
And what that is that little book, all those little numbers on those diamonds you see running up and down the road on all these tankers and box trucks and trains and all that. All you got to do is look up the number in this book or on that app, and it will tell you what it is,
and to take a different treatment.
Yeah.
and it will tell you what you need to do to stay safe from it, and it will even tell you who you can call if there's a problem with a bunch of this stuff.
Is this something that we're gonna have to know and be tested on, or?
No, it's something that if you walk into one of these shops up here and you see a bunch of these chemicals, or you go into a chemistry lab whenever you are doing light search and rescue and you see this stuff laying broken, then you can step out and say, what is that stuff? Oh, we need to stay away from it. And then not only that, you can do the fire department a huge favor when they get there and you can say, hey, there's hydrochloric acid and all kinds of stuff that's busted up mixing in there. And so you can help them by identifying that. The UN and NA placards, the symbol, then it's going to have what it mainly does, and then the chemical class, the 5-1, the higher that number, the more volatile it is. 1203, again, it's flammable. I don't know what I was thinking. 1203 is gasoline, actual unleaded gasoline. And it's got a flammable chemical class of 3. So if you see something that's 5, then chances are it's something like jet fuel, rocket fuel. It's very volatile. It's very, very flammable and easily to go off. All hazardous material placards are a stop sign. I can't reemphasize that enough. If you're in the middle of CERT operations and doing anything, and then all of a sudden you run into something and it looks like a hazardous material, shut it down, let somebody know, say we're not going any farther. So, unit summary. How you like that? You guys should know effectively how to suppress a fire. Now, the reason why we didn't spend a whole lot of time today on the whole PASS acronym is, you got that in your emergency preparedness course that everybody took. And everybody, for the most part, knows how to pull the pin, squeeze, aim at what you're doing, squeeze and sweep. And we're going to get some hands-on practice with that. And so, the CERT size up, how to size up what's going on, and the considerations you want to think about when you're assessing what's going on. The classes and the types of fire extinguishers. Most of the classes you see in this building are what is called an ABC fire extinguisher. It's a Class A, Class B, and Class C. It'll put out all of the above. The PASS and how to identify a hazardous material. Just by looking at that diamond and looking at the colors, you know that that's a hazardous material. You don't necessarily need to know what kind of hazardous material, but it is hazardous. Anybody have any questions? Well, guys, I tried to make this as quick and painless as possible. I hope I did. The homework assignment, just go over the next section we're going to cover, which is going to be disaster medical operations 1.
Where are we going to be Friday?
Amanda?
Friday's right here.
We'll be here.
Is there an afternoon, Friday?